Hello everyone, CS Word here, and in front of me is a conversion from bone meal to bamboo. If you want to skip ahead, there are timestamps in the video. For starters, I'll be going over a few of the basics. I'll be trying to use the crafter as much as possible, starting with the conversion of bone block to bone meal, which is a 1:9 ratio. That's good because there's a 9:1 ratio of bamboo to block of bamboo, and every block of bamboo converts into 2 bamboo planks. So essentially, one bone block should convert into 2 bamboo planks, a 1:2 ratio, 1 chest to 1 double chest. Now, a dispenser is able to output 18,000 bone meal per hour. If we divide that by 9, that's 2,000 bone blocks per hour that need to be fed into the system. One chest holds 1,728 items, so in about 51 minutes, it can run through an entire chest of bone blocks. That's not too bad. Our main issue is when we actually start to dispense the bone meal onto the bamboo. It can either grow 1 or 2 stages. Let me demonstrate. There's 2, and there's 1. So, if we run for a long enough period of time, it ends up being about 1.5 on average. It could be more, it could be less. So, if we multiply those out, we end up with 27,000 bamboo per hour for every dispenser. Another issue is that as of our latest snapshot, 23W51B, the crafter is limited to 18,000 items per hour, and maybe Mojang might revert that to be no cooldown like in an earlier snapshot, but for now, that is what it is. So to make things balanced, you need to have a ratio of 2 dispensers to 3 crafters, otherwise you will be creating too much bamboo for the crafters to keep up with, or you'll have so many crafters that the bamboo will be left in the crafters, and on top of that, each crafter needs 2 to 3 hoppers to keep up with the item distribution to run at 18,000 items per hour, making it more resource heavy and laggy. What I found to be the optimal configuration for myself is a 4 dispenser setup, where I'm able to convert 1 chest of bone block into 3 chests of bamboo planks in about 15 minutes. That 1:3 ratio will be the same for the rest of the video. So, in 15 minutes, or really it's 14.8, to get these same yields using a passive machine in 15 minutes, 3 chests, assuming bamboo grows at an average of 3.4 minutes, you would need to grow a total of 5,300 bamboo plants. That is a field of 20 by 256. Why those numbers? Well, most flying machines are about 20 blocks wide, and if I take a magnifying glass here, you'll see way out in the distance there is a crying obsidian, and it turns out 256 is exactly 16 chunks. But most people don't have their simulation distance set to 16 or so chunks, so most flying machines wouldn't even run that far. To make a more fair comparison, let's make a single dispenser setup. So again, 1 chest of bone block to 3 chests of bamboo plank. It takes us 51 minutes, as mentioned before. Using the same math, we need 1,555 bamboo plants, a field of 20 by 77. This is far more reasonable, and we can even see the crying obsidian right there, not even needing to zoom in. So, you might be asking, well, why would I go with the passive one if this one can generate it so quickly? And the answer is bone meal. You need to supply all of these dispensers constantly with bone meal. In total, these 4 would require 72,000 bone meal per hour. To put that in perspective, Ilmango's moss to bone meal farm produces 7,000 to 8,000 bone meal per hour per module. So you would need 9 of those modules to keep up with these 4 dispensers. Also, you could produce not 3, but 12 chests of bamboo plank every hour. Why would you need that? Okay, so all that aside, I feel like you really should go with a passive farm. It's just the better option in my opinion, but if you really insist on going with a bone meal based farm, let me go over a few of the basics. So at first I didn't know that you could get more than 1 bamboo for bone mealing, and that had a cap. That's what those far back designs were. Once I uncapped it, I quickly came to the realization that if you pulse the piston head so quickly, the bamboo, when it grows up and breaks, it'll land on the moving piston head and never end up in the item collection. To fix this, all you have to do is alternate when you fire it. I tried using binary counters with observers and sticky pistons, even the new copper bulb, but eventually I found out that just every other time is sufficient. Another thing you might try to do is use a chest boat to distribute the bone meal, because it can fit over 9 hoppers at the same time. However, in my experience, trying to do that in multiple configurations just ends up with issues because there's always that one dispenser that is short and not running at full dropper speed. And that leads me to this design. I'd say this is probably the best starter design if you want to do this, because it can convert 1 chest to 3 chests in 51 minutes. It's a single dispenser design, and I'll go over how it works now. So we load up bone block into the chest here, and they fill this crafter. We have to prime this system in particular until we have enough items in the dropper here that we are at a signal strength of 2. At that point, every time we drop down to signal strength of 1, we pulse the crafter again and refill the dropper. The reason we need to have items in the dropper is so that this dispenser never misses a cycle. Otherwise, if it does, we lose about 3 minutes in total for every dispenser. Now, I have a dropper crafter setup, or dispenser setup, and only the middle dropper is being directly powered with this observer clock. That is so we aren't interfering with the piston or the crafter. On the back side here, I have a sticky piston moving this observer up and down so that it can pulse this piston every other time, as I just mentioned, and then immediately the item should be collected by this hopper minecart to be pulled into this hopper minecart to be distributed to these 4 hoppers. And those are going into 2 crafters, going to their own crafters. And I know I said that having a 2 to 3 ratio is best, but because I only have 1 here, I have to have 2. It just works. It's sturdy, but it gets the job done. And I have a simple observer chain to send the signal down and pulse the redstone dust here. So after running this a few times, it takes 51 minutes, 31 to 3300 seconds, and 1 chest turns into 1 double chest, a hopper with 5 items, or 5 stacks, and if we put those 5 stacks here, we'd have 3 chests. Now, we are 2 blocks short. However, I noticed that in the crafters here, there were 6 bamboo left over, so in essence, we were only 3 bamboo short of that perfect 1.5 ratio. We were so close. But yeah, I'd say for anyone who actually needs to convert, this would be probably the best design. Sure, it's slow, but I don't know of anyone who actually needs more than 3 chests of bamboo plank every hour. But if you did want to go faster, the first thing you might be tempted to do is put multiple dispensers on the same bamboo. Because, as it turns out, if you do that, every dispenser has a chance to grow the bamboo 2 stages. So we've got 2, 2, 3, let's see if we can get the 4, and 4. And it doesn't matter what configuration they're in, or however many there are, as long as the bamboo has not reached the cap or its height cap yet, it will always grow. And so after doing a little bit of math, we can come up with a design that has 3 dispensers that cover, or that will then break the bamboo and distribute it to 6 blocks, which we are able to put hoppers directly underneath, going at double hopper speed, and that is able to allow us to kind of run it. I ran into a few issues with this particular design, primarily bonemeal distribution, and went over to this. And it was here that I quickly came to the realization, don't do this. What happens is bamboo breaks, and then instead of breaking all at once, it goes in a chain reaction. This one, then this one, the next one, all the way up. However, because we're bone mealing so frequently, what happens is the bamboo is able to catch up to where it had just broken off, and so all the attempts where it could have grown multiple times are wasted, because very quickly it reaches the height cap, and you're not getting any of your efficiency. In fact, now that it's at the height cap, most of the dispensers aren't even fully activating. So, you not only lose out on the speed, but you also lose on that 1.5 efficiency. Meaning you are worse off with this design than this one over here. Which leads me into the Bamboozler by Etho. So this is a slightly modified design where I just made sure every dispenser always has dropper speed going into it, 2 hoppers going into that one. I have 2 hoppers going into droppers for some of them, and everything is just being constantly powered. So let me go ahead and pick block this chest of bone meal, and I'll put a double chest onto each of the terminals here. And now let me make sure that the item collection up here is clean. Okay, turn on this clock so that we are activating the crafters. Before I turn this on, I'll do a quick tick sprint so we can get a baseline for 10 seconds, sure. And we see that I'm running at 3 MSPTA for my base, probably because I'm recording. Once I turn this on, I'll do a tick sprint for 800 and go over a few of the flaws with this design. So, the first thing you might notice is that bamboo starts flying out the back here. I don't know if that is a design flaw that Etho had to begin with, or if Mojang had made a change and items just start spewing out. What I do know is I've had to make sure that none of the hoppers here end up collecting the bamboo, and sometimes some even land up on top of this lever. Another thing I noticed is that the way Etho had his setup was that the bottom dispensers would not actually be firing unless you put a piston off to the side to update it and give it the butt update detection. Up along the column here, we are constantly moving blocks in and out. However, the way that the piston moves, you'd be better off with just a piston head, because moving when you observer pulse a sticky piston, it will leave the block there, retract, extend, and pull the block back. So you're losing out on some of that efficiency. And I think we're just about done. Yep. So we went up to 4.09 MSPT. So about 1.09 increase. That's not too bad, especially for all that's going on here. So as I was saying, it'd probably be better off if you used a regular set of pistons to break the bamboo instead of a block, but what do I know? I'm just copying the design. Once we got up to the top here, I did have to make space, otherwise items would be glitching out the sidewall here. So again, another weird thing that's going on with how blocks are being items are being handled inside of blocks. And then they go into this item stream where they were then being converted into bamboo planks. Okay, and after all of that said and done, we have, ta-da, not even a full double chest. You might be wondering, well, maybe this isn't fair. Well, it's not, because there is 30% more bone meal in these 6 double chests than there are in this one single chest of bone block. 30% more bone meal to get less than 2/3 the yield. Sorry to say, Etho, the bamboozler is terrible. No one should ever be using this design. It's not worth it. So what could we do instead to get a better yield? To no surprise, all you need to do is put the dispensers right next to each other. And following the smaller design, I have the crafter, dropper, dispenser. On the bottom side, I have a observer clock, so that all of them are pulsing the middle dropper, and then we pulse the sticky piston here so that it moves this observer up and down, so that we send a line of power to the note block, so these observers power the pistons, and we're not quasi-powering the droppers here. That became an issue for some reason, because Java. Meanwhile, we're also sending a pulse along this line here to activate the crafters, and once we have enough items in the dropper here, this comparator will overcome the signal strength of this comparator from this crafter, meaning it will lock this repeater, preventing the signal from activating, and we're not wasting bone meal. As for the item collection system, just a simple hopper minecart eater was sufficient, and then it goes into a water stream where I have an array of crafters at the end here. And I know I said 6 would be fine, but I put 7 in here just as a failsafe. Oh, that one's actually not empty. Go ahead and clean that out. So these chests are empty. Yeah, all the other crafters are empty. So on the top here, I have a simple item distribution using a hopper minecart to go into the 4 crafters. And let me just make sure that this is the new pick block. I'll place that down and turn on the system. I only need to run this one for 900 seconds. And this is where things start to struggle, mostly because of the particles. Particles are taking up the majority of the rendering. I currently have 4,000 particles with this design, and it's only going to get worse from here. So we can see that the bamboo is being collected by the single hopper minecart. No particles are being generated behind the stained glass, by the way, but it will for clear glass. I don't know if that's an issue with this snapshot. Maybe it goes back further. But once the items are thrown out of the cart eater, we run into the actual issue with this design. That is, I did not lock these hoppers here, so the first ones in line will have a whole bunch of bamboo stored up. Even after we finish dispensing the items, we need to let it run for a little bit longer so that all of the items can clear out into the crafter and be converted into bamboo. We should be finishing up pretty shortly here. But if anyone wants a tutorial for this, I might make it an unlisted video. I don't think it's really worth it though. I don't know of anyone who needs this much bamboo or bamboo plank. Okay, so we just finished all of the dispensing up top, and we should be wrapping up the distribution there. And maybe my tick sprint was a little bit too long, but we see that we're up to 4.5 MSPT. And if you're wondering why that's off to the side, I did have a hopper minecart rolling across here, but that wasn't fast enough. So with 4.5 MSPT, we went up 0.5 MSPT from the bamboozler and a total of 1.52 from the baseline. We were able to convert that one chest of bone block into just about the 1.5 average, and I'm assuming that there's going to be quite a bit of bamboo left in some of these crafters. So if I had it properly distributing and always making sure that the bamboo would end up in one crafter, we'd probably be a few blocks higher, but I'd say this is close enough. For as complicated as this machine is, and as it will get, this is not bad. We were able to convert all of that bone meal into bamboo in about the same time that it took for the bamboozler to convert more bamboo, or to convert more bone meal into less bamboo. So, what do we do from here? Well, the only obvious thing to do is to expand it sideways, and I went from 4 to 8 dispensers. At this point, I needed to have a second minecart eater to keep up with this, and I expanded the collection system accordingly. Same setup as before. Up top, the only difference is now instead of having a proper distribution system, I just got lazy and decided to start pick block eating. So here is 1/16 of a chest, which is 3 stacks and 24. Let me pick block that and put it down here. And I did try and have a hopper minecart, but yeah, that just didn't really work out. So once this one starts, it's going to get pretty laggy. Yeah, let me make sure these chests are empty this time. Just there, and just there. Okay, now when I turn this one on, this one will only need 470 seconds. And again, the last like 30 or so seconds is just going to be for the hopper down here to output to the crafter. Clear. As we can see, the frame rate is already starting to chug, and that's what we are going to expect as we grow even bigger. And also a huge thanks to Vanilla Tweaks for silencing the droppers and pistons, because they were so loud and annoying without the resource pack on. But we just finished dispensing, and as soon as the last few blocks make their way down here, we should end up at the end of the tick sprint. Alright, now we are up to 5.22 MSPT. So again, we're going up even higher. We went from 4 to 4.5 to now 5.2, a gain of 0.7, so significantly more than from the bamboozler to the X4. Let's check out the rates. Okay, everything's out of the hoppers here. Let me pull the items from here. And put them in here. Actually, I should probably put them in the one chest first. So one double chest, and we are actually 26 blocks over on this one. So yeah, that one was short 20, and now for some reason we're over 26. Obviously, it's a random setup, as I had mentioned. It's not perfectly 1.5, but it is pretty dang close. So let's make it faster. Let's go from 8 to 16. Now, this design is so bad that it required me extending the collection system out one extra block and to have a triple minecart eater and one on both sides. Each side goes to one side of this massive crafter conversion, and I have a command block here to even replace all of the crafters so that I can clear them out. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run it. Same thing as before, I just extended the top section. In fact, I ran out of redstone signal right here, and I just had to extend it by using a repeater and a target block. So, 1 stack and 44, 108 items, 1/16 of a chest. And let's go ahead and turn this on and prepare for a slideshow. It's only going to need to run for 270 seconds, so bear with. Slash. I'll try and get a nice view of the front for the slideshow. Isn't it just beautiful? Watching a couple frames go by. You see, at this point, because it's actually slowing down the game itself, it's not worth it to build it this big. Sure, theoretically it's going faster, but because the client is really struggling to keep up with it, it's not really worth it in my opinion. So once we get to the end of the tick sprint, the last few blocks should be making their way down here, like so. And let me clear out these hoppers so I don't have to wait for them. And even turn off this machine. So what we see is we went up to 6.87 MSBT. That is a significant spike from 0.7 to now 1.6. That is more than double, although we only doubled the width. So you start to get diminishing returns in terms of yield versus lag. And go ahead and combine all this now. And we see we were only 20 blocks short. And I would really assume that with how many are there here? 27, 28, 28 crafters, that there's going to be quite a bit of bamboo left in them. So yes, technically we did get the 1.5 average if all of the bamboo was again consolidated into their bamboo planks. Is it worth it? No. This design, while it is technically capable of producing 430,000 bamboo per hour, it's just not good. You start lagging up to the point where, yes, it's fast, but the whole thing slows down as a result. You need to find a good middle ground to the point where your machine doesn't lag out your game. But that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.